Hi everybody, we're almost ready to code. In fact, in this video we are going to code. So, before you gotten to this point, you have installed a compiler. I'm going to show you how to use Visual Studio very quickly, and then we're ready to get into our curriculum. So I created a PDF again for you to follow. Click on that and read this carefully. This shows you how to create a project using Visual Studio 2017 and also how to add a source file, and it comes with pictures too. And then at the very bottom, how to close your project and how to open an existing project. So this is the document you need to do everything that we're going to show you right now. So I've installed my compiler, and I'm going to search for it. I'll hit the start option, and then I'm going to look for Visual Studio 2017, and I'm going to launch that. If this is the first time you've launched yours, that's fine. Should look like this. You have a start page. You can look at some of your recent projects here if you have any, or maybe nothing's there. They'll be there eventually. But this is just a start window. You don't need that. But we do have two important windows I want to explain to you. The Solution Explorer, this keeps track of all of the files that are created when we create one project. And then the output window down here shows us our errors when we compile something. And then our output, which is hopefully we have a successful completion of our program. So you do want these two windows up. If you don't see those, you can go to Window and then select those options in order to see the Solution Explorer. So under View, Solution Explorer will come up, and then the output window. So you can see those if they're not up there, or if they ever accidentally go away. Well, where did it go? Go to View, and then view the Solution Explorer. I experienced this a couple times today. Just a little lag in it. So, all right, we have we just opened the environment. There's nothing here, so we have to first create a project. So we'll do File, New, Project. Again, all of these instructions are in that PDF. And then over here, you'll see your installed products. Now, at first it'll look like this, because you have C#, Visual Basic. We're going to code C++, that's what we're learning. So go down, open up the Visual C++ window, and then we're going to go down to General. And I want to do General because we're going to create an empty project. This will be most similar to what we'll see code examples for in our NetAcad curriculum, and if you look at anything else, it'll be an empty project that you'll start off with. Likewise, if you're using a different compiler, you're going to create an empty project as well. You don't want any code in there when you start coding. Now, if you create any of these other things, like a console app, which will actually work, a desktop application is like a GUI app, but we're going to create a console application, and we're going to have an empty project. So go down to General, Empty Project, and then give it a name. One thing I do recommend is that you put all of your files in one area. I've created a desktop directory called C++ Lab Assignments. Now, when I go to my, let me just want to go over to my desktop, but let me go to that directory and show you real quick how this is useful. So I'll go to my desktop, and then here are my lab assignments. These are just some sample programs I've made today. And one workspace, when you open up a workspace file, you'll see that it has a bunch of other files in here that are needed in order for your program to run. The SLN is an important file that represents our whole solution, but when you get stuck on something and I need to see your code or I ask you to turn in your code, this CPP file is your code. I don't need all of these other files. If I just want to see your code, this is the only file that you need to attach if you're emailing it to me for help or if you're turning it in. So knowing where these files are is very important, and knowing what you're looking at is also important. So again, like I said, there's a bunch of files that get created when you create one project workspace, but the important ones when you're coding something are going to be that CPP file. Okay, so create it, know where you're storing things, and it'll be good. So we're going to do an empty project. I've got my location already to my desktop, that directory I just showed you. If you need to change it or create a new directory, go ahead and do that, and then come back to this area. And I'm going to give it a name. So let's just call this, let's see, Code 1 Project. Just a sample. Code 1 Project. I'm going to create a directory for the solution. If whatever boxes are the default, just leave it that, and go ahead and hit OK. Now from here, it's going to create that project workspace. And looking back at my PDF real quick, we have done 1, 2, and 3 so far. That's all we've done, okay? Now we need to add a source file. So there's a couple different ways you can add a source file, but let me show you the way that I've talked about in these options. One is over here, you can right click on source files and add it, but the other quick way is just go to project and then add new item, and over here Visual C++ should already be selected. If not, you can select that. You can click the code if you want, but what we want to select over here is that CPP file. Remember, that's the important file. It has your code. You give this a name. Leave the .cpp extension. Don't put any periods in your file names. So I name my code file the same as my project file all the time. So my project file is called Code 1 Project. I'm going to name my code file the same thing. You can call it what you want. It's similar, it helps you keep track of it. But whatever you do, it can't start with a number for file names. And I normally don't put spaces in my file names either for programming. But definitely don't put a period in the file name, because that will take up the extension, and CPP has to be the extension of any code file. So from here we're going to hit add. So now what we have is, you'll see over here, a source file is in our code. We have a CPP in our sources file, and now we have a blank workspace, and we are ready to code in here. Let's see if I can kind of zoom in on this. I don't know where it is real quick. Okay. I'll just increase my font size when we get to it, and then look later how to zoom. Oh, there we go. Control and my handy mouse will work. Okay, so now back to our PDF. Where are we? We have now added our source file. So now we're ready to code. Now we don't know anything about coding yet. Also, if your Solution Explorer is not there, it's helpful to see, so it's on the View menu, which we already looked at. And now we're ready to code. This is when we start our curriculum in here. We'll start coding in Chapter 1. That'll be our first program. And when we get to 1.2-1, you'll see this first program here. So this is an example of something that we can code right now. So I'll code that. I'm just going to code exactly what's on the screen here. And as we learn more about the language, we'll learn some different things. So one thing we always have to include is our namespace. IO stream, which stands for input and output streams, because we're always going to do input and output with our code. So we're going to add that. So pound include IOS stream. Now make sure, I like Visual Studio because, maybe a little smaller, it color codes things. It really makes it easy for us. Don't worry, the colors aren't the same over here. Don't worry about that. But if something doesn't change colors or you have an error, it does help you a little bit on what your errors are like, or what they are. So our next line is using a namespace. I also love how this allows you to autofill with this compiler. Other compilers might not let you. We're using the standard namespace. STD is standard, so we're going to add a semicolon at the end of that. And we'll learn about this main function. Every program has to have a main. Now in here, if we're not returning anything, we can put the keyword void, or it's not needed, but I'll put it in there just so it matches exactly what we have here. And then I'm going to do an open curly brace. And then you'll notice that Visual Studio throws in a closing curly brace for us automatically. And that's nice because everything that's in that opening and closing curly brace is our function. And we would then type our code within that function. Some languages don't do that for you, and even I think I sometimes put my opening curly brace and then I'll hit down a couple, so I have it set up a little differently. It doesn't matter if it's like that or if it's like this. Just when you have it open, you have it closed. So now we're going to type in a cout statement. The cout, and then we have two directives, which are two less than signs, and then something in strings. Now, again, something I like with this compiler, when I hit my quotation mark, it put in my closing quotation mark for me. That's helpful because you then won't forget that closing one. If you did forget it, it would create a compile error. So here you can type whatever you want. Welcome to my program. And one thing that you'll need to add at the end of every statement is a semicolon. So you'll see, scroll over, I have cout, and then welcome to my program in a semicolon. Now, all of this stuff here is white space, so it doesn't matter if there's one there or none there, or a bunch there. Doesn't matter. It's nice to space it apart so it's easy to read. Anything that's inside quotation marks matters. It will come up onto the screen, so that's important. If it's in quotation mark, it's called a string literal. If it's out here and it's just empty space, it's called white space. And then the last thing that we have before an ending curly brace of a function is a return statement. And if our function is void, we're going to return 0. We learn about functions as we go on, but we always have a main, and we can code another cout statement in here if we want. Let's put another one that says my name is Katie, for example, or your name, and then a semicolon at the end of that. Now, one of the things that this program doesn't show here is an end-L, and we'll see what happens when we run our program. So now we've coded something. I'm going to add something called the system pause. You add that too. System, parenthesis, quotation mark, pause, quotation mark, parenthesis, semicolon. Add that before you return 0. You need to do that. I put a note in Neticat to do this too. But when you'll see, if you don't have that and you run your program, it'll pop up and go away, and you don't get to see your output. So the pause just adds something that says press any key to continue. And that's nice so you can see what your output is. One of the other things you'll see in this program is we don't have any return line statements. So this will be all jumbled together when we run it. But I'll show you how you can fix it from there. So I'll leave it the way it is. And then back to our PDF. So what we've done, this is right over here. What we've done so far is we've coded something. And now we're going on to step 10, which is ready to compile our code. So on the build menu, we're going to hit build solution or rebuild if you're rebuilding it a second time, third time, it doesn't matter. And what we want to get is look down here at our output window, and we want to get one succeeded message. We want to get a success down here so that we can run our program. If you have syntax errors, the error list will pop up. Let me create a syntax error real quick. I'm going to take away my closing, my semicolon, and when I run my program now, when I go to build and then build solution, you'll see it took me from my output window, which was one failed, and it sent me over to my error window, and it says, whoa, we have 2 errors. I really only have 1, but it creates multiple errors because it's not right. And it says, if I click on this error, it says expected a semicolon. If I click on this error, it says syntax error, missing a semicolon before the system identifier. And if you look at the line above, typically where your compiler points you to, you'll see, look at the line above, and you'll see, oh yeah, I'm missing my semicolon, so I'm going to add that back in, and then I'm going to build again. So this process of called fixing your syntax errors can be fun, it can be frustrating, but you have to do it in order to get a complete build. So we'll spend a lot of time fixing compilation errors, especially as we're learning. By the way, most things in C++ are lowercase characters. You simply change that to an uppercase and you're going to get 8 million errors. So don't do that. Lowercase is most of our keywords. So now we have built a successful, we can always build again, we've built a successful executable, and now we want to run it. You cannot run it unless all your errors are fixed. So now we're going to go over to the debug menu, and then we'll hit start without debugging or Control F5, and this will pop up. I have a VAS running on my program on my computer, so it's saying, oh, are you sure this is an okay executable? And it is. So I'm just going to close that, and you'll see my program will pop up again. So this is a console program. I've created an executable, and when I run it, it says, welcome to my program. My name is Katie. Press any key to continue. Now, what I had mentioned over here, there's no end else. I'm going to close this project right here, then I'm going to go back. So every time I have a note in here, be sure to close one console window before you run another program, because if you have this one open, this happens a lot with beginner programmers. You go, okay, that's not right. I'm going to leave that window open. I'm going to go back and I'm going to change something, and then I'm going to run and debug my program again. Now when you go to run it, well, let me change something. Let me say what I want to do. I want to add this end else statement in here, which just means a new line. So I'm going to add that. Now I'll build my solution, and you'll see it freaks out now. It gives me a compile error, and it says I can't create this. I can't open it for execution, and it doesn't point to any error that needs to be fixed. But what it is that this program is still open. So you need to close one window, number 16. Be sure to close one console window before going back and making changes and rebuilding your solution. So what I just did is I added an end line at the end of my line number 6. And now when I start this program, I compile and I run it. you'll see what it does is it says, welcome to my program, and now it goes down a line. It hits a return statement. So close that window. Mine is only coming up because of Avast. I need to turn that off. Well, I just ignore it. I like my blocker, but let me open this code a little bit more so you can see the whole thing. So what we have done here is we've said this one end L, so it makes an end line. And almost at the end of almost with every C out, we want an end L statement. So it will go down and be easier to read. So welcome to my program, and then I use 2 more directives and an end L that's not a 1. And then C out, my name is Katie, you put your name in there, and an end L, a semicolon. And that pause, this pauses the pause so your program doesn't, I'll show you real quick if you don't have it. I'm commenting that out with a bracket or a backslash. Let me build my program. If you don't have that pause in there, look what happens. Let's start our program. Did you see it real quick? It popped up and it went away. It goes pop up, it runs it, and then it goes away. Like, where did my code go? Start. It was really quick that time. See it? Pop, and it went away. This pause makes it stop. I just took it out. I just put it back in. Perfect. And it runs my program. Welcome to my program. My name is Katie. I have perfect end L, so it doesn't all run into each other. And I press any key to continue. So you need that pause in there. That is not in the Netacad curriculum, only because it's different based on compilers. So with this compiler, we do need it. So that's our first program. Now, a couple other things that are in this document that you're going to read carefully. Closing our project, we want to make sure we close the entire solution. So I just ran everything. Everything's saved. But if you're not sure, just hit the save all, save everything. And then you can do a file close solution, and it closes the entire workspace. Now, recall my desktop application, or my desktop, let's see, my desktop directory that I created for my programs, lab assignments. I just created this one called Code 1 Project. Now I click in here. You never need to turn in that whole project. You need to turn in that CPP file because that's your code. So I would go over to this here, the code. That's what I need to see for your code. But also in the debug directory, if you were to sell this program now to somebody, you don't need to give them the code, you need to sell them the executable. And you can run it from, you created an EXE. You can run your program from outside of the environment. Now, if you want to open the whole project in the environment, you don't want to go open file, you want to open a project. So don't do file because we have to open the whole solution in order for our program to run. So go to file, open, project or solution, and then navigate to where your files are stored. Mine's on my handy desktop. It is called there, and I am going to the code directory. I'm going to open up that SLN directory, or file that ends in SLN. That's the whole workspace, and that should open my code, my project, my output window, my solution explorer, everything. Okay? When you close it, file, close solution, close everything up. And I believe that's everything on how to create and run a program. So you're ready now to code. If you have any questions at this point, let's post something in a discussion board so we can make sure I'll create a discussion board for questions after Unit 0, and we got to get these things set up right so we're ready to go on to Chapter 1. So thanks. This is going to be an awesome semester. I love this language, and I think you will as well. Have a good night, day, afternoon, whatever.